So recently, I've been playing some Hollow Knight Silksong, which was one of my most anticipated games of the last couple of years besides Metroid Prime 4. And long story short, this game has been everything I've hoped for and then some, featuring fast-paced combat, very tricky platforming, and a lot of skill check encounters that put my gaming abilities to the ultimate test. But another reason as to why I was looking forward to this game was because of me falling in love with the first Hollow Knight game, which I knew nothing about when I started playing it back in 2020, with the only exception being that it was a Metroidvania, which have become one of my favorite genres in gaming alongside survival horrors, FPS, and Souls-like games. And of course, one of the founding fathers of the Metroidvania genre just so happens to feature my favorite Nintendo franchise and one of my top 3 favorite gaming franchises alongside the Souls franchise and classic Tomb Raider, Metroid. And considering that Metroid Prime 4 is arriving this December, thank God, I want to give love to this franchise with a full mastery of Metroid Prime. However, before tackling that game, I thought it would be more fitting to master the game that started this amazing franchise first. Welcome back to a brand new Retro Achievement Mastery. I'm Jonathan Wolf, and today I'll be getting all 25 achievements on Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System using the Retro Achievements website. A fantastical website that allows you to get achievements for your favorite retro games from the NES all the way to the PlayStation 2 with every console in between, with Wii games being added next year, which I'm very excited. And as usual, I'll be getting these achievements in hardcore mode, which disables emulator features like loading save states, the use of rewind, slowdown, and emulator cheats. Now the set for Metroid is a very simple one, and for this mastery we'll do 2 separate playthroughs. The first one will be a 100% run, where we'll aim for every upgrade and item in the game while discovering new areas and defeating every single boss that blocks our way to complete our mission. And if we play our cards right, we'll be able to finish this run fast enough to unlock 3 of the 4 speedrun related achievements, where we need to beat the game under a certain amount of time to unlock a different end screen once we complete our mission. And for our second run, we'll do a speed run where we have to beat the game in less than 1 hour in order to achieve the best ending and fully master this game. So, with that plan established, let's head down to planet Zebeth and destroy the Mother Brain. Our mission begins on Brinstar, where we defy the laws of gaming at the time and head to the left, where we will acquire our first power-up, the Morphing Ball, which will allow us to crawl into tight spaces to continue our trek through the planet, but also get our very first achievement, Ballin. After getting our morphing ability, we head to the left and up this blue shaft and go through the door on the right, which will put us in an orange shaft, which I'll name them like that as reference points for the future of this video. And in this orange shaft, we want to go to the bottom of it and go through this corridor to get our most important upgrade, missiles, which pack a lot of punch and give us our second achievement, but they will also allow us to unlock these red doors that contain upgrades for Samus. So once we collect the missiles, we return to the orange shaft and... Am I gonna die? Is it gonna happen? It happened. Well, there you go, I died. So, after that embarrassing death, we go back to the start and take advantage of our death, since by going up the blue shaft, we can go through this door and use our 5 missiles to open this red door and claim the long beam, which will allow us to shoot across the screen. And after collecting our beam upgrade, we go back into the orange shaft and go through the door on the right. And as we go through these hallways, at the end of the second long hallway, we will get our first energy tank, which will increase our max health, fully heal us, and give us our next achievement, tanking around. And once we collect our health and stop worrying about dying again, we continue to the right and head up this shaft and go through this door. And if you manage to restock on missiles by defeating enemies, you'll be able to open this door and get our next mandatory upgrade, the Morph Ball Bombs, which will allow you to destroy secret walls and defeat grounded enemies. But as we go back, we want to make a pit stop in this room before the hall with the E-Tank, and bomb the floor to reveal an opening that will give us access to the most important power-up of the game, the Ice Beam, which will allow you to freeze pretty much every enemy in the game, but it's also going to help you deal with a very deadly enemy towards the end of the game. However, before we get this next upgrade, we have to deal with the most annoying aspect of the early game, grinding for missiles. When defeating enemies, they have a chance to drop energy, missiles, or nothing at all, which is not that awful since this will become a staple throughout the entire series. However, the biggest problem about the drops in this game in particular is that in the worst case scenario, you will have to grind for a long time just to get back to 5 missiles. And the reason for that is because the way drops work in this game depends on what frame you kill the enemy, which will dictate if you get energy, missiles, or nothing at all. And unless you've injected the game's codes into your veins to the point that you know every single variable in existence, there is no way to tell if you will get the specific drop you want. And because we only have 5 missiles in our inventory, grinding is practically inevitable, and it can really grind your gears, especially if you're aiming for the sub-hour speedrun. So if you kill enemies along the way and they drop energy or missiles, make sure to not ignore them, because it's going to make a huge difference in the long run. But thankfully, the RNG gods have been on my side and the grinding wasn't that bad, getting back to 5 missiles so that we can open the red door and claim our icy reward and another achievement for our troubles. And once we acquire our chili weapon, we head back to the orange shaft by performing a pseudo bomb jump by dropping a bomb, get a boost, and then jump to exit this hole and continue our journey. And once we return to the shaft, we go all the way to the top so that we can claim more items before making our trek to the first boss we'll be facing. And once we reach this room, we can attempt to get an item at the top by using this green enemy and the ice beam so that he can head up this opening and give us access to a defense upgrade earlier than usual. However, there is a quote-unquote easier way to get to the top, but also a more dangerous way. Okay, now for the scary part, because if I f this up, then I have to restart the game. So what I'm gonna do now is what is known as a glitched wall jump. And basically what you want to do is you want to position Samus right on the frame of the door. Okay, that's you do. And basically what you want to do is you want to press down and up as fast as possible, to the point that you want to make sure that you do not go into a morph ball, because if you go into a morph ball and you're inside a wall, you cannot get out and you're going to soft lock yourself. And basically, yeah, you just want to repeat this until you get to this point. And once you get to the top of the screen, you want to make sure you jump, because by jumping, you're going to scroll the screen up a little bit. And you want to, and this is very important, because if you scroll up to the top, you're actually going to teleport to the bottom of the screen. By doing so, you're going to soft lock yourself again, in another way, and you're going to, yeah, you basically have to reset the game. And because the original NES version works on a password system, yeah, you have to, if you didn't get a password, then sucks to be you. And there we go. So once we glitch up our way to the door, we collect our reward, the Various Suit, which will increase our defenses, give us the power of pink, the manliest color in existence, and another achievement for our collection. And once we acquire this pink suit, we go back down and continue right to collect our second missile tank, as well as our second energy tank. And once we collect more firepower and life, we go into this shaft, which gave us access to the bombs, and then we want to make our way all the way back to the orange shaft and go to the bottom of said shaft and head back into the room where we died and got our first missile tank. However, instead of dying again, we want to continue down the right path beyond the missile tank location and head down into this elevator, which will take us to our next area, Norfair, which will give us the achievement, the floor is lava, as well as more items and access to our very first boss. So the main objective of this game is to destroy Mother Brain, a sentient organic supercomputer that wants to conquer the galaxy with her super weapons, the titular Metroids. But in order to gain access to her lair, we need to defeat his two generals, Kraid and Ridley. And once you claim bombs, you can choose to go back to the beginning of Brinstar and go to Kraid, or head into Norfair and make your way to Ridley. And for this mastery, I'll go for Ridley first. And the main reason as to why is because Ridley is the easier of the two generals. But another reason as to why I'm going to Ridley first is because while exploring Norfair, we will collect a lot of items and expansions that will make Kraid's lair so much easier in the long run. So starting with Norfair, we head to the left into an isolated section of the region, where we can collect 2 missile tanks, putting our total ammo to 20. And once we get the second expansion, we head back to the elevator and go to the right until we reach this large purple shaft, where we go down and head through the first door we come by. And by going through this secret wall, we have this section where we need to use the ice beam to get on the other side of this wall. Ugh, damn it. I think I needed that ball. Oh, come on, Samus. Eventually. There we go, okay. And after getting through, we claimed 2 more missile tanks. And yeah, that's actually another reason as to why I wanted to go to Norfair first, because there are a lot of missile tanks. Back at the purple shaft, we want to bomb this section for a secret passageway that will lead us to Ridley. But before heading there, we go through this door to claim our next power-up, the high jump boots, which will increase our jump height and give us an achievement that implies that Samus has a similar jump to Mario, which, if you know this franchise, is an insult to Samus in so many levels. And after getting our fancy new boots, we bomb this wall to head into a huge isolated area filled with a buttload of missile tanks, an energy tank, which we definitely need, and some new power-ups. Our first one being in this room, where you can head up by shooting these blocks and use said blocks as makeshift platforms. And once you get to the top, we can access our next power-up, which will make dealing with enemies so much easier. That is the famous Screw Attack, which will turn your spin jump into a ball of massive destruction and give us our 10th achievement, Screwing Around. And once we acquire this powerful ability, we go back down twice through this room and head to the right for our next energy tank, since our health is low and we don't want to have the unfortunate death because of dumb enemy placement. So as we go through this jelly bean room and down this fake lava pool, we get our next E-tank after a scary fumble with the seahorse. Uh-oh. Samus, get out of the lava. Samus, get out of the lava. Okay. Oh, okay. Nice. So once we collect our health and get fully healed up, we go all the way back to this green room. And this time we head left and go down in this room until we reach this identical room to the last one we were at. And by bombing this part of the floor, we can go into a secret area which contains 2 more missile tanks. Heading back and continuing on, we head into the scariest room of Norfair, because in this room we have these death pits that if you fall into them, you cannot get out of them, which will force you to take a death and go all the way back to the beginning of Norfair. But with careful platforming, we will get through these egg chambers, which involve more death pits like I mentioned, and we can get our final missile tank in this area, which means that now that we have to go back to the purple shaft and go into Ridley's lair. However, as we go back, in this room between the 2 death pit areas, we can bomb the ground and access a secret area that contains an optional beam upgrade, the Wave Beam, which is more powerful than the Ice Beam, is able to hit grounded enemies because of its wavy trajectory, and can go through walls. However, the downside about the beams in this game is that by collecting the Wave Beam, we lose the Ice Beam, which will make the final area of the game more difficult. Thankfully though, the game devs thought of this and decided to place a second Ice Beam located in Norfair, which we will collect once we defeat Ridley and head back to Brinstar. So once we collect our new beam and wavy achievement, we haul ass all the way back to the purple shaft and head down to gain access to Ridley's lair, and by going down the elevator, we will achieve alienation and begin with the easier of the 2 layers. Once we arrive at Ridley's, we want to head to the left, since the right path will be a return path once we defeat the space dragon. And after we enter this second silver room, we want to shoot these blocks next to the door, which will give us access to our next missile tank once we cross this hallway filled with Meta Knight looking drones and killer bees. Going back and heading to the left, we arrive at a long green corridor filled with multiviolas, hoppers, and a big wall that impedes our path. Thankfully, we do have a secret path that will allow us to go past this infernal wall, which leads to a room with an energy tank. But you don't want to be hasty, because this room has a fake floor that will troll you if you don't know about it. Now, if you fall through the fake floor, you can head to the left here and climb up to get the E-tank from the other side. But if you jump over these blocks, you'll jump across the pit and claim our 4th energy tank. And after we claim the E-tank, head down the invisible ground and head to the right. And after clearing out this hallway, we prepare to get one of the dumbest missile tanks in the game. And I say one of the dumbest because we have to make this jump to this ledge, where you need to do a pixel perfect jump in order to make it up the ledge. Or you can just do this. Because yeah, this jump right here sucks. It is incredibly precise. Unless you do this. And I got it first try. I thought I was gonna f it up. Oh, thank God I didn't. So after we claim the missile tank, we go down the pit and head to the left. And after reaching the end of this hallway, it's time to engage Ridley motherfucker. Ridley only has one attack, and that is shooting these fireballs at specific arcs depending on the position of Samus. If you still have the ice beam, you can freeze the fireballs and easily spam missiles into the space pterodactyl until he breaks down. But since we have the wave beam, we can jump into the lava and shoot him from below. And as you shoot him, you want to make sure you jump out of the lava to minimize the damage taken and not have a sudden death at the hands of Ridley's peeing pool. But after shooting waves up his ass for a bit, we will destroy the space dragon, or whatever this is supposed to be when it comes to the artwork. We get Great Scott by defeating our mortal nemesis, but also after defeating Ridley, we will be rewarded with 75 missiles, which will put our missile capacity past 125, giving us more punch, which we get by getting half of the missiles in the game. And after Ridley's defeat, we open this pink door, which is one of 2 doors in this game that require 10 missiles to open. We go through this room with invisible platforms and get our 5th energy tank. So now that we have one boss defeated, we have to backtrack all the way back to Brinstar and go into Kraid. But before we do that, once we reach this red shaft, we want to head to the bottom and go through this hallway to get the final missile tank and final item in Ridley's lair. And once we claim this tank, we go back up the red shaft and head back to the elevator and make our way up the purple shaft in Norfair. However, before we return to Brinstar, we want to go past the door leading to the elevator and go up to this area with 3 doors on the left. And the first door we want to go is the door in the middle, which contains not 1, not 2, but 3 missile tanks. God damn, that's a lot of missiles. And by going back to the purple shaft and going even higher, we will claim 2 more missile tanks, which are the final items in Norfair. However, before exiting, if we continue past the second missile tank, we can go to a secret pathway that will lead us to our second ice beam, which we want to collect since it's going to make the final area much easier. So now that we cleared out Ridley and Norfair, we now want to go all the way back to the beginning of the game. I should note that before the blue shaft, there is an energy tank before heading into Kraid. But I decided to collect it after Kraid since I will get another E-tank once I enter Kraid's lair. So once we reach the second room in the game, we want to bomb these blocks and head down and through this door, which will give us access to Kraid's lair, which not only will give us Slimeball City, but also give us the best song in the game and one of my favorite songs in Metroid, period. Entering Kraid's lair, the first place we want to go is the first red door to the right, which contains a missile tank. After collecting it, head back to the beginning and go down and open the second door on the right. This will take you to a room with a secret pathway that will lead you to your 6th energy tank, which is the final energy tank you need. However, there are 2 more energy tanks you can collect, but they will only heal you up instead of giving you a 7th and 8th square in your life. And because we now achieved max health, we will get the achievement, All the Tanks in the World. After getting the final health upgrade, we want to return to the main shaft and go through the first door to the left, which will lead you to another missile tank, and after collecting it, you want to continue to the left and drop down to the bottom of this shaft. And by going through the right and through this red door, we can collect our next missile tank. And now what we have to do is go on a reverse S pattern through this section of the map until we get to this point in the main shaft. And after returning to the shaft, go into this ledge and then drop off and hold right to land on this ledge, and then go through the third red door on the right. And once we cross this acid pool, we arrive at the worst designed room in the game. However, before dealing with this atrocity of game design, we go into this door and collect the final missile tank of the game, which means that the last missiles we need for 100% will be given to us by Kraid after we defeat him. So going back to the shaft, we want to go to the bottom and go left until we reach this room, which leads to the Kraid boss fight. Now, if you decided to fight Kraid first, he can be quite challenging, especially because trying to damage this dinosaur can be very tedious, since these needle projectiles will block missiles and beam attacks. So the best way to defeat Kraid is to morph. Get inside him and bomb the ever-loving shit out of him. And this is a good strategy, since bomb explosions in this game actually hit enemies for multiple hits. And after bombing Kraid, we will defeat him, getting Kraiding power as well as all of the punch by having your missile capacity reach 255, getting every single missile in the game. And because we got beat up heavily by Kraid, we jump into the acid to reveal an optional energy tank, and we morph into it, restoring all of our lost health. But now that we're done with Kraid, we have to go back to Brinstar, which requires us to climb this annoying shaft with reappearing blocks. Alright, so here we got the worst room in the game, where we have to climb this huge shaft, where if you fall off, you have to climb all the way back up. And because the blocks are pretty annoying and because the blocks for some reason knock you back like that, yeah, climbing this shaft is incredibly annoying. Oh, no! And yeah, if you get knocked on the other side, you are flooped. I guess a part of me would just stay to the left more, just so that, yeah, when they knock you out, they knock you to the left instead of the right. Alright, we get it here. Okay, we're done. So yeah, we destroy the first two. And then we make these two jumps. Don't fall off. Okay. And there we go. Ow. And once we finish this annoying climb, we go back to the elevator and head back into Brinstar. And even though we're doing okay with health, I decided to get the final E-tank of the game by freezing this enemy and jump to the tank and truly get every item in the game. So now that we defeated Kraid and Ridley, we now have one more objective, and that is to head out to the top of the blue shaft and go through the top door and into this red door that will lead us to the statue room. And by shooting the Kraid and Ridley statues after defeating them, you will create a bridge that will lead you to the final area of the game, Tourian, which will also give us the achievement, Secret Facility. Tourian is a very straightforward area, featuring 4 linear rooms before the final boss. And in these rooms, we only have 2 types of hazards. We have the titular Metroids that will suck the life out of you if you're not careful, but also we have the true final boss of this game, these motherfucking annoying Rinkas that infinitely spawn and always manage to get in your way even if you play with extreme care. And people say primal aspects are more annoying. Thankfully, because we have the ice beam, we can freeze the Rinkas and go past them, but as for the Metroids, if you want, you can freeze them and shoot them with 5 missiles to destroy them. Or you can just run past them and not have to worry about getting your life sucked out of you by these space jellyfish. The first room of Tourian is incredibly easy, since the only enemies you have to deal with are Metroids. But as long as you freeze them and don't kill them, you will not spawn future Metroids in the room, which is the reason as to why I recommend you do not destroy the Metroids. Since the way this game works when it comes to certain rooms is when you defeat certain enemies, extra enemies will spawn later in the room, like some Reapers in this part of Kraid's lair. But also, in this room, we have this yellow door, which is the second door in this game that requires 10 missiles to open.
If I had a nickel for every
10 missile doors.
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Room 2 is where we get introduced to the Rinkas, featuring some cheap game design. After getting past the Rinkas, we have more Metroids and lava. However, just like before, if you freeze the Metroids and just run past them, you will despawn them and you will basically have a clear shot to the next room. Just make sure to avoid the Rinkas at the end. In my opinion, room 3 is the more difficult room of Tourian, since we have these zigzag halls that have infinite spawning Rinkas and Metroids ready to attack you. Oh no! Get off me! Get off me! Dude, get off me! And then we have room 4, which is the most cramped room of Tourian, and here's what I would recommend you defeat the Metroids, since trying to get past them can be very tricky, especially in this tight section before the door leading to Mother Brain. Oh, maybe because I was spamming and I was not, and technically the in-betweens didn't count. Maybe that's the case. Alright, here we go. Man, as someone who has done this fight damageless for for RetroAchievements, I'm not used to it. Let me tell you. Alright, let me freeze the Rinkas. Not destroy it, game. Wow, okay. Ow. Oh my god. All that for nothing. Good lord. Okay. Alright. I gotta be careful because I'm gonna freaking die. Why am I not moving? Oh my god, why am I not getting up? Okay. Okay. Alarm, shut up. Okay, we did it, but viewers, cover your eyes, cause epilepsy warning. And brain damage. Oh boy. Alright, you can open your eyes now. Alright, get the hell out of there. Oh my god. I can't even make it the first jump. Amazing. Oh my god. Stop bonking your head, Samus. Oh yeah, the GBA also has a version of doing this before the time reaching 777, which, yeah, that's another thing that I'm not looking forward to. But then again, I don't know if the GBA version is based off of the Famicom version or the NES version, because for those who don't know, in the Famicom version, you can actually save the game. Or the Famicom version has a save feature. Unlike this, which has, what's it called? The NES version that has a password system. And there we have it. We defeated the Mother Brain and achieved a true peace in space. And because we finished the game fast enough, we got Samus in a very sexy leotard, which will give us 3 more achievements. Successful mission for beating the game in less than 10 hours. Yes, I'm serious about that. It's a girl for beating the game in less than 5 hours and 25 minutes. And finally, Ready for the Beach for completing the mission in less than 2 hours and 27 minutes. And by beating the game, we can head back into Zebeth and do what is known as the second loop, which is a sort of New Game Plus where Samus has the Morph Ball bombs, the Ice Beam, the Long Beam, the Screw Attack, and I think the High Jump Boots. I'm actually not sure on that one. So yeah, this is pretty cool. So we can actually get the speedrun achievements, right? Sadly, no, because if you check the speedrun achievements, it says that you have to beat the game's first loop in order to get the achievements. So no New Game Plus for me. And it's now time for our second playthrough, where we have to beat the game in less than 1 hour. Now, for the sake of time and not repeating myself, I'll give a general guide on how to beat this game quick enough and with relative ease. And by following this guide, you'll be able to beat this game and master this NES classic. That being said, if you want to see my full unedited run of the sub-hour speedrun, you can check my Wolf Archives channel, where you can check the full run, as well as all my full playthroughs of these Masteries. Which, you know, comes to show that I do not pull these amazing feats out of my ass, and that I'm actually decent at video games. Starting things off, we go to the left and get the Marumari. Then go to the bottom of the orange shaft and collect the missile tank in the hallway before the elevator to Norfair. After collecting it, backtrack to the halfway point of the orange shaft and go through the door on the right and head all the way to the right, claiming the energy tank and the Morph Ball bombs. Once you get the bombs, backtrack while defeating enemies for missile drops and bomb the floor in the room before the E-Tank hall for the Ice Beam. After getting the beam, head to the top of the orange shaft and go for early Varia by using the flying enemy or glitch wall jump your way up the same way as the main playthrough. After acquiring Varia, continue to the right and get the second missile tank, which will be the final missile tank we will get in this run. That said, if you don't feel confident having only 10 missiles, you can go out of your way to get some more missile tanks. Just make sure you don't go in unnecessary long detours just for 5 missiles. You also want to get the energy tank past the missile tank, and once we claim the health upgrade, we want to go to Norfair, because just like the original playthrough, we're gonna go for Ridley first. Once in Norfair, head right into the purple shaft and bomb through the floor and enter the first door for the high jump boots. Now this step is not necessary, but I highly recommend you take a small detour to get the Screw Attack, since it will help you immensely against flying enemies. And once we get the Screw Attack, we head back to the purple shaft and go down into Ridley's lair. Arriving at Ridley's, head to the left and go into the floor in this hallway to get past the silver wall. If you don't have missiles for this red door at the end, Screw Attack the enemies in the room for ammo drops. And after crossing the red door, jump over the invisible gap in the floor and collect the That's okay, we can just head left and climb this section to get the thing. Alright, you know what? Let's take the death. After crossing the red door, jump over the invisible gap in the floor and collect the third energy tank. Now, even though I took a dumb death to try for the E-Tank again, if you missed this jump and didn't get the E-Tank, don't worry, because you can compromise yourself by collecting the E-Tank in Kraid's boss room. But even if you got the E-Tank or not, dropping down through the invisible floor is actually necessary to continue on. Then head to the right and down the shaft and go to the boss to engage Ridley motherfucker once again. Now, because we don't have the wave beam and only 10 missiles, Ridley's going to take more punishment with the ice beam. Although that being said, his boss fight is incredibly easy. As soon as you enter the room, freeze the fireballs and get right in Ridley's face and shoot him with ice until he gets frozen enough to have his cameo in Metroid Fusion. And after defeating him, we defeat our first boss and get 75 missiles as a reward. And once we defeat the space dragon once again, we go through the pink door and collect our fourth energy tank. And now this is where we showcase something fun and do something completely different from the normal run. Instead of going back to Brinstar the normal backtracking way, with the power of controller configurations, we want to map our controller to port 2. And once we do so, we want to press up and A. And by doing this button combination, you will get the password screen, but by pressing start, Samus will teleport to the beginning of the area she's currently at, which for every area that is in Brinstar will be back at the elevator. Now the downside about doing this trick is that you'll spawn back with 30 health. But don't you worry, because we can strategically pick up E-Tanks and go back to full health no problem. But also, as I very stupidly learned during this run, you not only have to do the up and A combination in controller 2, but you also want to make sure that the game is paused. I'm going to press up and A. I said up and A. Wait, what? Why is it not working? I don't know why it doesn't work anymore, because it used to work. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, seriously, what is going on? Okay.
Eventually.
Oh my god, I'm fucking stupid. So once we warp back to the beginning of Ridley's lair, ride the elevator back up, and then input the combination again to warp all the way to the beginning of Norfair. And after going back to Brinstar, input the code one last time to go back to the beginning of the game. And once we head back to start, make your way to Kraid. And once arriving at Kraid, head through the second red door to claim your 5th energy tank and fully get healed. After that, head back into the main shaft and go through the 3rd red door and make your way to Kraid and defeat him the same way as we did in the main playthrough by bombing the ever-letting shit out of him. And once we defeat Kraid, we will get our final missile expansions with the 75 missiles we get by defeating the boss. And also, if you didn't get the first energy tank in Ridley's lair, what you can do is get the energy tank in Kraid's boss room. But if you already have 5 energy tanks, you do not need this energy tank whatsoever, since there's gonna be one more we can get in Brinstar. But after defeating Kraid, pause the game and press up and A on controller 2 once again to warp back to the top of Kraid. And then, if you want, you can climb up the shaft from Kraid or just input the combination once again. And once we return to the beginning, make sure you grab this E-Tank before the blue shaft to not only fully heal yourself, but also get the 6th and final energy upgrade. And once we collect our final health upgrade, head to the top of the blue shaft and open the red door before the statue room. And once you open that door, I highly recommend you grind for missiles until you reach close to your max, which in my case is 160 missiles. Now, similar to the first run, you want to run past the Metroids and avoid the Rinkas for the first 3 rooms. But on the hallway before Mother Brain, I do recommend you take down the Metroids, especially if you took a lot of damage on the way to the 4th room. But once we head into Mother Brain's chamber, it's time for the final push. Zebeth doors take 8 missiles to destroy if you don't let them heal up. However, if you're starting for missiles once you get to MB, you can backtrack to the hall with the Metroids and get more missiles, since Metroids drop 30 missiles when killed. And if you think that exiting Mother Brain's chamber is going to be a waste of time, don't worry, because every Zebeth door you destroy will not respawn. Meaning that if you want, you can brute force your way through all the Zebeth doors before MB, and then backtrack to the Metroid Hall to restock for health and missiles. But if you feel comfortable, just head on to NB and fucking toast her. Also, yeah, I'm actually gonna scroll the screen because that way we're going to despawn spawners behind us that will spawn Rinkas. Alright, there we go. Epilepsy warning, cover your eyes. Okay, open your eyes now. Alright. Get out of here. Go. Oh my god, okay. And yeah, if it wasn't obvious, oh god, the spin jump is more uncontrollable than the normal jump. Now the problem is that the spin jump actually gives you more height. And there we go. And we did it! And what's our final time? It is 48 minutes. Wow. Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. Time! Ready for the magazine. And there you guys have it. Metroid. That runtime is fake, but we got Metroid on the NES mastered in 2 hours and 37 minutes. So, because this set requires you to just go for all items and the best ending by beating the game fast enough, I'll give this set a 6 out of 10 in terms of quality. It's very simplistic, but it does the bare minimum with no miscellaneous achievements in between. And because this is a game that I'll classify as a guide game, where the only way to truly enjoy this game is by having a guide or having notes on your side like I did, I'll give the difficulty a 7 out of 10. Now that being said, if I went into this mastery with no notes or maps helping me throughout the 2 playthroughs I did, I would have increased the difficulty to a 9 or even a 10 in the worst case scenario. And the reason because of it is because of the somewhat cheap aspects that this game has, like enemies hitting you through door transitions, or the instances of death pits that you cannot get out from, causing you to die and go back to the beginning of an area with no health. And as for the fun aspect, I decided to change the fun category again, this time by relating it to how fun was to master the set. Because if I ranked it based on my mood throughout the mastery, if I had a bad day, I would just give it a bad score, and that would be unfair to not only the game, but the achievement set itself. So the fun stat will be related to how fun and enjoyable it was to achieve certain challenges in a set or the set in general, which for Metroid on the NES, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And the reason I'm giving it an 8 is because I had outside assistance to beat this game efficiently. And like I said in the difficulty stat, if I didn't have any outside help whatsoever, I would have probably decreased the score to maybe a 5 depending my experience with the original Metroid. Now, because I changed the fun category, I will say that no game actually changed after making this change, especially since the points I made on those videos have stayed the same even after checking back on them for reference for this part of the script. And as for the hardest achievement, because of the tight time and the possibility of getting stuck or lost in certain parts, I'll give the title to Ready for the Magazine as the hardest achievement of the set, which is by beating the game in less than 1 hour. Now, before we move on to the conclusion and the cringy YouTuber please subscribe portion of the video, there are 2 things I want to point out when it comes to this game. The first one being that this game does have another version with achievements, which is the classic NES series version on the Game Boy Advance. But also, there is a GameCube version related to Metroid Prime, but that version has a huge asterisk, which I'll talk about later. And this version has 34 achievements, which does include interesting challenges, like getting Varia before high jump, or getting all items and opening all red doors before entering Tourian. And I was originally going to cover this version for this video, however, I then saw that we have damageless achievements for all 3 bosses, and some interesting challenge run, like doing a minimalistic run where you have to beat the game while getting only 1 missile tank, no various suit, and no screw attack, as well as a deathless run, which would have taken more time, and I wanted to have this video done before October. However, like I mentioned in the Toy Story 2 video, games that have different versions with exclusive achievements will be covered in separate videos discussing the exclusive achievements in a way similar to my Crash 2 revision video. So that's the first thing. But the second aspect is something that we haven't seen in the series until now, and that is subsets. Now, to put it simply, to not waste more of your time, subsets include achievements that would not be applicable or straight up allowed in official sets. And in my experience, I can divide subsets into 4 different categories. The first category is glitch showcases, where you need to perform game-breaking exploits or glitches to get these achievements. And this category is, without question, one of my least favorite things and something that I'm never touching for personal masteries or for this channel. And that's mainly due to the fact that I don't like to use glitches to break a specific game or go out of bounds or just, cheat my way throughout a game. The second category is the extra content subsets, which involves DLC, expansions, multiplayer, or even regional variants of existing games that will add new content. The third category is what I like to call as challenge runs, which involve playing a game with a specific challenge in mind, like Professor Oak challenges in Pokemon, Proud Mode Level 1 in Kingdom Hearts, or my favorite challenge run that I've done, period, beating Mario Sunshine without using the hover nozzle, which boosted my enjoyment of Sunshine, and it's also one of the biggest reasons as to why Sunshine is my favorite 3D Mario game. And finally, we have the fourth category, which is, to put it lightly, the bullshit hard challenges, which involves achievements so unbelievably difficult that only the best of the best are able to master these subsets. Some examples include the Mega Man X Collection, which asks you to beat every game without taking damage, Jesus Christ. God of War 2, where you need to beat every major boss in the game on Titan with no upgrades, and separate achievements on doing them damageless, which by the way is actually a subset that I'm currently working on my personal RetroAchievements profile. And as a soft spoiler, Crash 3 has a subset that is stupid hard and I can put in this category, but I'll talk about it when we cover Crash 3 next time. So when it comes to the Metroid subset, where does this subset land? Well, it lands on the secret 5th category, which is a combination of some of the 4 previous categories, where we have achievements that rely on glitches, challenge runs, and bullshit hard achievements. Some examples include defeating Ridley while only collecting 1 missile tank and the Maru Mari, using passwords like engage Ridley motherfucker or mother brain, fucking toast, and a lot of achievements that require you to soft lock the game in specific parts of planet Zebeth. So because this is a combination of different categories, will I ever master this subset? No. And there's actually multiple reasons, but the 2 biggest reasons is that as I'm recording this video, only 5 people have mastered this set. But also, while researching the subset for this video, the Metroid subset is apparently impossible to master due to some errors for certain achievements. Not to mention that the developer can no longer work on the achievements because of personal stuff, which I'm not gonna hold it against it, but it's a real shame that the set is pretty much broken. Now, despite the fact that this game does suffer from the good old classic NES jank and other annoying aspects like not having a map feature and ammo and health drops being annoying to come by, I still enjoy the original Metroid. Although, unless you want to check out Metroid's humble beginnings, there is absolutely no reason to play this game nowadays, since we have the excellent Metroid Zero Mission remake, which expands on the original game and then some, but also makes the original game pretty much redundant, similar to how Samus Returns makes Metroid 2 obsolete. Also AM2R, but I'm legally not allowed to say that because nobody hates Nintendo fans more than Nintendo. But as a Metroid fan, I'm glad I got to experience the first entry of my favorite Nintendo franchise and one of my top 3 favorite gaming franchises along classic Tomb Raider and the Souls franchise. And because I'm a Metroid fanboy, I'll just go ahead and say, just play it. If you don't like it, that's fine, but just play it because it's a classic. Big thanks to Dude1286 for making this set. And now that we're done with this game, it is time for the set I've been dreading and to some extent been hyping ever since I started this new series on this channel. And if you've been keeping up with these videos, you know what comes up next. Thanks for watching this brand new Retro Achievements Mastery video. I know I said that New Super Mario Bros. Was next, but because of time constraints and OBS giving me a black screen when booting up DS games and having RetroArch as the active window for no stupid fucking reason, thanks a lot OBS, you piece of shit program, I decided to change to a much shorter set that I knew I was going to have ready before October. So yeah, I'm sorry for the sudden change, but until I get this OBS bullcrap fixed, NSMB, DS games, and other consoles on RetroArch might not happen for a while unless I decide to do something different. The next game we're mastering is the long-awaited Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, with 112 achievements, 30 platinum relics to suffer through, and as promised, I'll do my very first live stream where I will get every single platinum relic. So if you want to see my slow descent into insanity in real time, be sure to tune in, which I will reveal when it will happen in my community tab. So be sure to check there for updates about my latest masteries and also when I decide to stream. But with that said, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more RetroAchievements Masteries, which will include Super Mario Kart if we reach 500 subscribers, and Super Mario Eclipse when we reach 1,000. Please subscribe because I really want to play that game. It's one of the best Mario ROM hacks and it was my favorite game that I played last year. But also, don't forget to check my Wolf Archives channel for the full playthroughs of every single mastery that I've done and will do. Thank you all for watching. I'm Jonathan Wolf, and I will see you all in my next Retro Achievements Mastery. Take it easy, everyone, and I'll see you all in my slow descent into insanity with Crash 3.